What is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. Thank you for tuning in. I am Collin, joined as always with my co-host Tyler. Took a week off last week, but we are excited to be back behind the mic. We got a jam-packed episode coming your way. As far as football goes, we're still pretty much in the dead period. Spring practice starts here in about 2 weeks. I think it's March 20th they start. So not much news related to that as of now. Once we get into spring ball, there will obviously be news and we'll start talking more football. This episode is going to be centered around basketball, both men's and women's. Caitlin Clark, obviously a big topic. We're in March now. So when it comes to sports, this is one of the best times of the year. And hopefully we have some fun here in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, women's for sure. I mean, we already know they're going to make the big dance, but hopefully the men's as well. So we're going to get into all that today. But before we begin, you can find Hawk Talk on Melrose on your favorite podcast app, Google and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and then also on YouTube. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe and please leave a review for us. So, Tyler, big win the other day, Ohio State. What an epic atmosphere. Wish we were there. We'll just start with what your thoughts are on that game and beyond that.
Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised on how they played. Not necessarily even offensively, but just defensively. Like I feel like you actually saw them going after balls, getting on the ground, going after steals. And the biggest thing for me, it's becoming more of a team effort. It's not just the Caitlin Clark show, which is, don't get me wrong, is a show. It's the best thing on TV right now, right?
Yeah.
It's must-see TV, but it's not necessarily winning basketball versus those tough teams. And you need your other players to step up. And it's been a few games, or well, really a large part of the season where, people like Gabby Marshall struggles. You don't really get the bench production. Stokey's kind of hit or miss. And man, against Ohio State, they all clicked. And then the game before that, who did they play? Minnesota, which they're not on the Ohio State's level at all, but
Yeah.
there was quite a few girls that stepped up in that game as well too. So you're just seeing a more balanced effort, and you're seeing like them actually play a little bit more defense, and it's resulting in big wins. And obviously Ohio State, the matchup, Fox, Gus Johnson, the whole thing. I mean, it was actually like a really dope game to watch. I think I saw it was like averaging like 3.3 million viewers and peaked at like 4 million or something like that. And which is like the most like ever. So it broke like Victor Wembanyama's debut as a rookie in the NBA, which, most people would argue that obviously, men's basketball in general is better than girls. And Caitlin Clark's kind of changing that narrative. So she is must-see TV. And the way that the Iowa girls are playing right now, and like I said, especially during that Ohio State game, I mean, that team is must-see TV because they're scoring 90 to 100 points a game, and it's really good to see.
It was like just the perfect recipe. And that's kind of the reason why I actually took Iowa in like a parlay, because I just really thought like senior day, Caitlin Clark, the atmosphere was going to be insane. And I really had no doubt. Like I thought I was like, they're gonna beat Ohio State, and they frankly should have beat them the first time around at Ohio State. We were up by 10 or 12 points going in the fourth quarter. But yeah, the atmosphere though, like Travis Scott there, Jake from State Farm, like it feels like you're watching a game that's like played in LA. Like it's what happens like for like NBA games where you have these celebrities there and stuff like that. And we're in Iowa City for a women's basketball game. Like who would have ever thought? And it's just, to me, it's just absolutely crazy, but it's awesome at the same time. But, for me, it was a little sad just knowing that, like, this is it, right? Like with Caitlin Clark and, on Sunday, hopefully we have 9 more games left, 3 in the Big Ten and then 6 in March Madness. But it's still like sad to know that the era is almost over. And I think Iowa can still have a good season coming like next year and the years after, but like it's definitely not going to be the same. And these 4 years to me just like flew by. Like
Yeah.
You know, seems like days go by, well, I guess as we get older, like, days do go by faster and years go by faster, but it seems like she just started at Iowa and like, hell, we're already 4 years into it. And, yeah, I just hope that, we can obviously win the games up in Minneapolis, which we'll talk about here soon. And then, yeah, hopefully we can go really far again, like last year. I will say that this team kind of exceeded my expectations going into this year. The big storyline was like we didn't get any transfers, right? And we're losing Monica Ziano, and can we replace her? And we frankly, like I said, we didn't really go out and get anybody. And I thought that this team would be good, but I didn't think
Yeah.
it was going to be as good as it was. And frankly, there's been only one game, only one loss where it's like, okay, that was a bad loss. And that was like at home against Kansas State back in like November. Probably should have won that game. And to be completely honest with you, like watching that game was at the time exactly how I kind of felt like this team was going to be. Kind of like, yeah, we're an okay team. Where I don't think we're going to be as good as last year. But
And the
boy, like,
Nebraska game too, I feel like.
and that's another one where, and I was just gonna say, like, you take away if
Yeah.
that whole record thing wasn't a thing, or let's say
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark would have got it like a game prior. And I don't want to take anything away from Nebraska. I mean, they played good and their fans were great and they deserve that win. But I just feel like that whole record thing got in the way of that. And
Yeah.
that game really stings because we would have been, if we would have won that game with beating Ohio State, we would have been the number one seed in the Big Ten tournament. Well, we would have won the regular season Big Ten, and we probably would have been a number one seed right now for the Big Dance. Now we can still maybe get number one seed if we can, maybe beat Ohio State again, like on Championship Sunday coming up. Um, but yeah, so like that's really like Kansas State, Nebraska. I mean, Indiana on the road. That's just you knew that was probably going to happen. I mean, Indiana's coming off a bad loss to Illinois, and then
You'd beaten them by 20
yeah,
some
blew them out the first go
previously.
round.
Yeah.
So you almost felt like that was going to happen. I would have liked to seen maybe a little bit better of effort, but to be completely honest with you, like these last three games after that Indiana game has really shown me like this team like can battle back and they've looked
Yeah.
really good these last few games. And I think Chris Hassel was the one that said it that it's probably like a good thing that all these records, all these things have kind of happened, and now we can move on to what's at stake. And I could not agree more with that. And I think right now, these last three games, I was playing as good as they can get. And you kind of mentioned that, with some of the players, not just Caitlin Clark, because at the end of the day, you're not going to win a national championship just by one person. I mean, look at, like LeBron back in those years of winning, it took more than just LeBron. Like you need guys around you to step up. So for Iowa, yes, you need like Hannah Stolke. You need people off the bench. And it sucks with Molly Davis, and we can talk about that too with her injury, but it sounds like she might come back for the tournament, which is great news, or maybe later on in the tournament if we keep winning. But yeah, you need some of those X factors. You need Gabby to hit her threes, and she's starting to do that because she's going to get a lot of open looks every game. You need Cade Martin to make her layup. Seems like sometimes she misses those easy bunnies, right? You need people like Kylie and maybe even McCabe. She doesn't really play. I mean, it's kind of weird how like one game she'll play a lot, next game she won't.
Right.
But you just need those players to step up, and if they can, in the way they are doing it, I think this team has a chance to go really far. And I didn't really think that maybe just a few weeks ago.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think on our last podcast, me and you were both kind of like predicting that like this team could see an early exit just because it's Caitlin Clark or basically nothing.
Yeah.
And I really think that Indiana game was really good for this team, kind of get their butt kicked on the road.
Yep.
Because I think they needed that kind of that spark, that reminder, like, okay, we're not just this team that can put up 90 points whenever we want, and Caitlin Clark can shoot it from anywhere and save us every game. Like, no, against the tougher teams, it's not going to always happen. And I don't believe that if that's the way they would have played against Ohio State, even at home. And I know we're obviously a way different team at home than maybe even on the road, but I still don't think we'll get that win or definitely, really dominate kind of the way we did start to finish and never really, fear for, a comeback from Ohio State. So you're exactly right. I mean, listen, they're peaking at the right time, and there's no better time to peak than March. So,
Yep.
like you said, they've got the 2 seed in the tournament now, and obviously we'll talk about it. But, um, I think the way that they've ended this season gives me really good hope that they could not only go far in a Big Ten tournament, but obviously the big dance as well.
Yep. And I'm to the point now where like even if they like lose, like let's say they lose Saturday of the Big Ten tournament, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember like last year. Do you remember that first not the first game in the first round, but the second one we played Georgia? And I remember how
Yeah.
tense they played because the year prior we lost in the second round.
We
And it was
did.
almost kind of like
Yeah.
once we beat Georgia, it was like a weight lifted off their chest. What's
Yep.
nice is this year we won't, we passed that, right? And
Yeah.
so you get the first two games at home. And so, yeah, you should make the Sweet 16. And that's where, like, for me, like, the floor is the Sweet 16. I think the ceiling with this team, as long as girls are stepping up around Caitlin Clark, I really think the ceiling is the Final Four or national championship, depending on what side of the bracket. Now, like if you're on the same side as like South Carolina, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat them again,
Yeah.
2 years in a row,
Yeah.
or whatever other team there is. But if they get paired up in a nice bracket, and that's why, like, man, like it'd be so nice to be a number one seed in the tournament in the big dance, and hopefully, maybe like I said, if you win the Big Ten, there
Yeah.
is a chance that you might get up there. But I know last year we had the same conversations and we won the Big Ten and we still weren't. So who knows if they even take that really into consideration? I have no idea. But so here is the bracket for the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. I think does it start today? I'm almost positive it does. Or maybe it would start today. Yeah, Wednesday.
First
Yep,
games.
March
Yeah.
6th.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
tonight at 5:30, we're recording this at 3:30 on a Wednesday, and then there's games on. But yeah, so Iowa essentially, yeah, they're gonna have to play either Wisconsin or Penn State on Friday at 5:30 or around 5:30, which they should be able to beat them. And then to get to the championship, you're gonna have to get through Indiana, and it's gonna be a really, really good game. I would think Iowa should be able to. I would imagine that they should be able to beat them. They like I said, they both split the year. One was a blowout at Iowa, the other one was a blowout at Indiana. This game will probably be a little bit closer. Now, what's going to favor Iowa is there's going to be a lot of Iowa fans up there since it's a quick 3-4 hour drive from Iowa City and Des Moines. So there's going to be a lot of Iowa fans there. So it's going to feel almost like a home game. They'll be sprinkled in Indiana fans, I'm sure, but I would think Iowa should be able to win that. And then, you're more than likely going to play Ohio State. The games are going to be great. And like I said, for me, like I'm to the point where it's like if they lose, they lose. It's not a big deal. But I'm just excited because I think these games are going to be really, really good starting on Saturday and then on Sunday.
Yeah. Yep. You're exactly right. There's going to be some really good matchups. And like you said, if Iowa takes care of business against either Wisconsin or Penn State, then, you're going to have that rematch of Iowa, Indiana, which, I think everyone wants to see. So, it's weird though. I mean, I just go back to like you said, like, I'm gonna miss this, right? Like, I don't. This might be the last year, realistically, of me really getting into like these type of these women's tournaments and things like that. Like, obviously, I'll probably still tune in, but I mean, every time you get the chance to see Caitlin Clark and this Iowa team, especially in like a lot of these big games now that we're in March. I mean, it's hard to not take it for granted because it's like, well, oh, nope, she's actually done. She's officially off to the WNBA. She made her decision. She's done. But, that decision I do think has paid a little bit of dividends with kind of her saying, a weight's been lifted and, now they can just focus on basketball. All the records are out of the way. And hopefully they can make a good run here.
I remember last year, it was so much fun when they made up to Minneapolis and they obviously won it all. So that's what I'm hoping for. Similar.
There's going to be a shit ton of Iowa fans again, I'm assuming, right?
There will be.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might be having the home court advantage most times that they're playing too, which is great.
This is where, like, looking on, like, if we would have been able to be the number one seed, think about like getting to Sunday would have been so much easier. I'm not saying Michigan State's a good basketball team. I'm not saying they're not, but like, man, like you would have played Illinois or Maryland, which Maryland, I was surprised. Like Maryland and 8 seed, like they definitely were not as good as maybe what they
No.
were expecting to be. But then yes, and then you'd probably more than likely play Michigan State or Nebraska to get to Sunday. So
Well, I was just gonna say, like Maryland has been trouble for Iowa in the past. I know, and then obviously Nebraska, they're obviously a team that can is more than capable as well. So I like that they're on the other side of the bracket, but obviously, yeah, it's like you'd rather play them than probably Indiana.
then,
So
yep,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I guess that's really it for. Well, I guess we before we get into the men's, with Caitlin Clark deciding to go to the WNBA, I think that happened. Maybe it was like last Thursday. Kind of
yeah,
shocking because it was just kind of like randomly. I just
yep,
was scrolling through Twitter. I'm like, what the? But I think it makes perfect sense to do it right before senior day and just kind of take that off, your chest a little bit
yep,
and clear the minds of everybody because you go into senior day, people in like, I think you might have even said that when we were talking about it last week, like, people are going to be chanting one more year, one more year. And I think it's just better knowing now, regardless if she would have said, hey, I'm staying at Iowa for one more year or I'm going to the WNBA. I just think it's probably what was needed to be done. I know some people were questioning it, but I think it was a
well,
good judge.
and I also I agree with a lot of other people. It's like a classy move, right? Like have it get that out of the way so that yeah, you're not hearing fans chant one more year on senior day when there's
Yep.
other seniors that, are obviously important to the success of this team and this program for the last 4 years as well. I mean, Kate Martin, Gabby Marshall, like, those girls have done, their part too to deserve, a spotlight on senior day. So I thought it was a classy move. It made sense. I agree with you though. It was kind of like, wow, I did not see this coming. But once
Yep.
she kind of explained herself and the reason that that she did it, it obviously made a lot of sense. So but yeah, I mean, ever since she did that, I mean, you can see a different type of Caitlin Clark. And even that Minnesota game, I don't think it was announced yet, but I think the team knew, and I think she had talked with her coaches and maybe it was before that game. I can't remember. I think it was after.
I think it was the day after. I
Yeah,
think the Minnesota game
and
was on Wednesday,
yeah,
and then
I
Thursday
think
she
you're right.
announced.
Because someone had said it's like she had talked with her coaches and they kind of knew, they knew of her decision, prior to that game. But even her just like discussing that with them, you could see the weight lifted off considering she scored like the first 15 points in that game.
Yeah,
So
that was insane,
yeah,
literally insane. The Ohio State
30
game
point
too.
triple double. Yeah,
You could
nuts.
make the case the Ohio State game. She didn't even play that well, yet she
Oh
still
yeah,
like did obviously stat line like
yeah,
really good.
yeah.
But I think it's the right move for her. Like if I was in her inner circle, I would tell her like I think it's time. And
I
we
do
kind of
too.
talked about this on the last episode. Like we both thought like she's probably gonna leave because she just she's broke the records now. She's done everything that she wanted to do at Iowa minus the national championship, which still could happen. But even if it doesn't happen, that's such a
Yeah,
team oriented goal that it's just like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I mean, at least we made it to the national championship last year. That's something that just never happens for Iowa and really any sport to go that far.
yeah,
So for me, it's just like I think it makes sense. It will be a new challenge for. I think the WNBA is going to absolutely love it because it's going to grow that league. I think more people are going to start paying attention. I know I will a little bit. Indiana
yeah.
Fever. Hopefully, they're on TV more. I did see a thing where like um, I think their contract ends like after this year, or maybe it's like next year. And I think,
2025. Yeah.
yep. And they're probably going to get up pretty
Hopefully,
good because
yeah.
of Caitlin Clark. So let's switch to the Iowa men's team for a little bit here as we are now getting closer to being a tournament team. I know
Right.
I came on the mic, what was it, 2.5 weeks ago by myself after we beat Wisconsin. I said at the time, and it was such a long shot, but I said we kind of control our own destiny with the schedule remaining, playing Michigan State on the road, at Illinois, at Northwestern. But I wanted to be like
Gosh.
cautious. Yes, because I was like, there's just no way. Because like I don't see us beating Michigan State on the road. I don't see us beating like Northwestern on the road. And here we are. And we almost beat Illinois on the road. So we got one more
Yeah.
game left to, I think, really kind of do the deal. I think if you beat Illinois on Sunday, I really think that at that point,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you're a lock yet, But I think if you can beat Illinois and then win one more game up in Minneapolis, I think you are a lock. I think you're a bubble team for sure, and you're in it. But
Yeah.
I just think you got to beat Illinois this weekend. I think that is the
Yeah.
game. I just think if you lose that game, you're now at 13 losses, and then let's be honest, you're probably going to lose up in Minneapolis at least at some point, whether it's on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so at that point, then you'll be at 14 losses,
Yeah.
a little bit tougher. It could happen. I mean, you could win a few games up there and maybe, but I don't know. Just take care of business on Sunday. It should be a great environment inside Carver Hawkeye. Should be sold out. And it's kind of the nightcap of the weekend. It's at 6 o'clock on a Sunday. You don't really see many Iowa games
Yeah.
that late on like a Sunday, but such a big game though. I mean, like we got to treat it as if it's a tournament game, like win or go home type of game, because it essentially is that. And we'll actually run through some scenarios here too, because not only that, but like the seating up in Minneapolis will determine a lot too with winning that game.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like they've been treating the end of this year kind of like the tournament as well. I mean,
Yep.
they've been taking one game at a time, and for, the majority of the games they've came out on top. Obviously, they lost at Illinois, but shit, we were up in that game too. And,
Yeah,
they
5 minutes left. It's tied, right?
it's tied and we, collapse. But they responded and they won on the road at Northwestern. And, no slouch, no slouch of a team, tough place to play. Northwestern's a good basketball team. And like you said, I didn't think we'd win that game.
No.
But they pulled it out and you give yourself a chance. Like that's all you can ask for. And I think you're right. I think it starts with the last game of the year at home. You got to take care of business against Illinois. You got to win that game. You got to
Yeah.
find a way to win that game. Give yourself another quad one win. Build on that resume. I think I saw some teams ahead of Iowa or something like that had lost last night, or
Yeah.
some teams that were in the mix around, or right around the same, you know, bubble type teams with Iowa, and you need help, right? You need help, and so that obviously was good to see that they had lost last night too.
So I'm going to share the screen again. So this is I don't know if you've ever been on this site, but you can click on like what you think the remaining conference games, like who's going to win, and then you can calculate seeds. So there's 3 games tonight, or no, there's 2 games tonight. So when you guys are listening to this, you're going to know the outcomes of this. But Minnesota, Indiana play tonight. Michigan State, Northwestern. So I'm going to assume that Minnesota will beat Indiana at home, and I'm going to assume Michigan State will beat Northwestern at home. And then tomorrow night, I assume Wisconsin will beat Rutgers. On this weekend, then Northwestern should probably beat Minnesota at home. I'm going to say Indiana beats Michigan State at home. Let's just say Iowa beats Illinois. Nebraska beats Michigan. Let's say Penn State beats Maryland at home. Purdue beats Wisconsin. And I'm gonna say Ohio State, who's playing really good right now, beats Rutgers.
Yeah.
So then you can calculate seeding. And let's see where so Iowa would then be, in this scenario, would be the 5th seed, which honestly is not a bad route. Now you're gonna have to, if you get to Saturday, you're gonna play Purdue. But once again, for me, I don't expect this team to go all the way in the Big Ten tournament.
No.
I just want to win one or 2 games because it's
Yeah.
just going to help us. So, like, okay, on Thursday, you play either Rutgers or Maryland. Now, both of those teams are really good defensively. We have yet to beat Maryland this year. We're 0-2, but both games we were up. Can we finally do the cheese if we do play them, or if we play Rutgers? So you play that on Thursday. Hopefully you win that. And then I love who we play on Friday then. You'd play Northwestern, a team that you just beat, who's kind of injury riddled right now. You'd play them, and then you would play Purdue, and we're gonna lose that. But fuck, if you get to Saturday, and that's like I said, this is the scenario of beating Illinois. That's fine. But with me, I mean, we're gonna be a tournament team then at that point. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go back then. I'm gonna do a few more scenarios. I'm gonna say, I just don't see. I'm gonna keep this from March 5th to 7th, so tonight and tomorrow. But over here, I'm going to say, let's say Minnesota beats Northwestern, because once again, Northwestern is a little injury riddled right now, so I could see Minnesota go on the road and beating them. Let's say Michigan State beats Indiana. Say Iowa beats Illinois, and then let's say Nebraska beats Michigan, which should happen. I'm going to say, let's say Maryland beats Penn State, Purdue and Ohio State. Let's see where we're at then on this one. So we'd be the 4th seed. See how like there's so many, how just a few games.
It changes, man.
So,
Yeah.
yep. So we'd be the 4th seed here, which means that we would have a double bye, and we'd be more than likely playing Wisconsin, who right now is kind of collapsed, right? Like that would be a
Yeah.
good team to play right now. And then yeah,
What
you'd play Purdue
just for
for
curiosity's sake, what happens if we lose that
yep.
game?
And I was just gonna do that now. So let's say Iowa loses. I'm gonna change it back to Illinois beating Iowa. I'm gonna calculate the seeds, and we'd be the 8th seed.
Wow.
In that now
Right.
I'm gonna go back here. So yeah, that would not be good because look at who we play. A team,
Yeah.
Ohio State
Tough
team
Ohio State.
who's playing really good. Oh, I did not mean to do that. And then we would play Purdue.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna once again kind of change things up a little bit. Let's say Northwestern beats Minnesota at home. Let's say Penn State beats Maryland at home. What else? I think let's just do that. Let's just see where Iowa's at then. So then Iowa's now the 7th seed playing Penn State and then Illinois.
Yeah.
Now, I also did, I'm not going to do it now, but I did another scenario where Illinois beats Iowa and we were the 6th seed. But I forgot what teams had to win and lose. So long story short, the best Iowa can do is 4 and the worst is 8 at this point. So like I said, there's 2 games on tonight, game on tomorrow, and then this weekend. But yeah, if you take care of business against Illinois and some things go your way, you could potentially be a 4th seed, a double bye.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that 3 weeks ago, which is just absolutely crazy.
And I feel like at that point, well, I shouldn't say it. I mean, I just feel like, yeah, you beat Illinois, you give yourself a really good shot.
Yep.
Beyond the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament, which is obviously the ultimate thing to try to make. And, obviously you want to, hope the bracket lines up for Iowa in the Big Ten tourney so you can steal a game or two and increase the resume even more. I know,
win one game in the Big Ten tournament. That's really all I would just get the Friday at least.
So how confident are you on Sunday with the way that we're playing, with the fact that we just, we had lost to Illinois the game 2 games prior? What's your gut feeling on it?
Illinois is tough. I mean, they're tough. I watched their game last night against Purdue because I was really hoping they would beat Purdue because they would just make that game on Saturday even better, because if you win, you just beat a team that just beat Purdue, and they lost, but man, like they're good, and it's going to be a tough game for Iowa. But that's the thing I was going to just say, like why, or like how is Iowa all of a sudden where they're at? And it really comes down to like Josh Dix. I mean, he's an absolute stud. I forgot, I should pull up what his stats are the last few games, but I think it's like 30 something and 55. Like he's like shooting like 60% right now or something like that. It's a crazy number. And they're not like layups and stuff like that. They're like jump shots. They're 3 points and they're mid range.
They're like, he's like a mid range god. All of a sudden.
And so you have that, you have Cricky, who's finally like playing a little bit better. I mean, there was that stretch there where it's like, okay, this guy is not Big Ten ready.
Started off well, and then
and then it went down. Now he's kind of back. You got players like even like Patrick, who's coming in, and he'll knock down that 3 when you need it, and he still doesn't play great defense. But like you got players just playing well. You got Tony Perkins, you got Payne Sanford, who's playing really good. And I just think what you said, like they're treating all these games as like it's like a do or die. It's a must win, and you can see the intensity. They're playing a little bit better defensively, although it's never going to be great.
No.
Never going to be great, but it's going to be a tough one on Sunday. I just hope the crowd's into it. It's jam full, and find a way to win. Because if you win that game, like you said, we're at worst a 5 seed if you win that game, more than likely. So, and to be completely honest with you, I really hope that we are an 11 seed in the tournament. I think all these years of being the 7th through 10 seed, I just hate it because like you win that first game, you're going to play the number 1 seed or number 2 seed. As an 11 seed, and you see it all the time. 11 seeds go far because they play the 6 seed, who's never like, it's a good team, but it's not like, oh my gosh. And then you play a 3 seed, and the difference between like a 1 and 2 seed to a 3 seed is actually way bigger when you think about it. Like if you stack teams in the NCAA tournament, it's kind of a drop off after that, right? Like they're still good, but like, I don't know. You just see it all the time where like 11 seeds go to the Sweet 16, they go to the Elite 8. And I think if there's a year to do it, if like it'd be Iowa being 11 seed, which you just don't see very often. We're always at 7 to 10 seed, always. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm not trying to defend Fran with like not getting the Sweet 16, but I don't know if you saw this tweet where a guy kind of put together the last like since 2014 the teams that we have kind of had to play,
Yeah.
and like we have gotten pretty unlucky when it comes to some of the matchups in the tournament. Like last year, think about it. We have to play Auburn in Alabama,
Yeah.
which was like an hour drive for them. And even if we would have beat Auburn, we'd have to play Houston, who was obviously really good. You go back to 2021, we played an Oregon team that didn't even have to play in the first round. And Oregon, who won the Pac-12 that year, probably was
So
misseeded.
It wasn't even funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like 2016, we lost to Villanova in the second round, who ended up winning the national championship. 2015, we lost to Gonzaga, who lost to Duke in the Elite Eight, who ended up being the national champion that year. So long story short, like I said, I'm not trying to, make excuses, but like it has been like just unbelievable some of the matches that we've had. So maybe finally, if we can be an 11 seed this year, once again, you maybe get paired up with a team that is beatable, and then you play a team in the second round, a 3 seed who is another team that if you play good enough, you can win as well. So really hope that we can get to the Sweet 16 one of these years, because it is much needed. It goes part of that Fran fatigue. And I had that episode a couple weeks ago talking about that, and I think that's the big reason. I mean, when you look at all these years of really good squads and not getting to the Sweet 16, it's part of that fatigue. And hopefully one of these years we can get there. And if hopefully if we make it this year, hopefully this is maybe the year to do it.
Yep, you're 100% right. I think the goal is obviously to get there, but the goal is to actually make some noise in the tournament as well, and not just see an early
right
exit.
away.
So yeah. And you're right. I mean, you've said it before. It's like we've seen this too many times. We've had too many good players come through Iowa to not really make it to a Sweet 16 under Fran, and hopefully one of these years that changes. But we got to get in first. Comes down to beating Illinois on Sunday. Got to take care of business at home.
Yep, exactly. And then one last thing. I don't know if you saw this, but did you see what the West Coast Conference does for a bracket?
I know it. Yeah, it's a joke.
It's crazy to me. In a way it makes sense, because it's making sure that like your best teams like don't lose like a quad 3 or quad 4 loss.
But
it's like it's crazy, because it's like like St. Mary's, for example. There's 3. I mean, like let's say like Pepperdine or whatever that 8 seed is. Like let's say they go all the way to St. Mary's. They're going to be going off of like 4 straight games while St. Mary's has not had a play. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because I did not realize.
Oh yeah. That's crazy. That's why they get. I mean, that's why, and I always say like that's part of the reason like why Gonzaga is always seated so high. Like they'll lose because like, well, first of all, their conference is a joke, and then they don't play anybody until freaking the semifinals.
It's just so crazy. But it makes, like I said, it makes sense in a way, because it's that conference wants to get
quarterfinal. I mean, but
once their best team to actually make it all, to get to the tournament, to go far. But then also that maybe getting it kind of like an at-large bid. Like let's say like that really good team doesn't win it all, but maybe they'll still get in because they won't have that quad 3 or 4 loss if they would have played like. But it's just it's crazy that they do that.
It is weird. Yeah.
So, and I know there's mixed feelings on it. I mean, you can see on the right-hand side, people are saying stuff. But then people are also commenting like it makes sense for conferences like this. Like now, like for the Big Ten, no. But for conferences like this that you want get your best team in the tournament, I guess it kind of makes sense. But all right, well, that will do it for this episode. We got some good days ahead of us with some things happening with women's and men's, and then obviously football starting up here soon with spring ball. So we'll be back probably next week. We'll probably do an episode next Wednesday. We'll go over the Big Ten tournament for women's. At that point, we'll know the outcome of the Iowa-Illinois game. We'll know what seed we are for the Big Ten tournament for men's, and we'll probably have another episode out next week. And then, week after that, spring ball starts. So full gear, full steam ahead, baby. So
no off season.
Not
from us. So
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, have a good rest of your week, and go Hawks.